Hello, my name is Samantha, and welcome to your second Embedded Systems workshop. Today, you'll be making a button passcode project using digital inputs. Slides, schematics, and coding resources can be found in the description below. Let's get started.
Alrighty, I think we can get started with today's workshop, and it's just going to be about digital inputs and buttons. So, quick overview of what the project is today. So, we're just going to be introducing digital inputs such as buttons, and we'll be able to control like LEDs and such using buttons. And we'll incorporate those inputs in our circuit. And first, we're just going to do a simple circuit with the button, and then we'll do a button passcode project. So as Sam said, just make sure you have your kit ready. And yeah. And for Prameet's question, yeah, I think you can maybe leave some of the wires, but yeah, you can feel free to take it apart, because we're going to be making something that looks like this image here on the right. And the button passcode project is just going to be a series of buttons that we'll use to create a password. And if someone inputs the right password, then the green LED will turn on. But if the password that was input is wrong, then the red LED will turn on for a few seconds. And you'll be able to have multiple attempts. And here are just some parts you'll need, but we'll go over it as we complete this project. As usual, just your breadboard, USB cable, 2 LEDs, and I recommend the green and red LED, so it represents like the correct passcode or the wrong passcode, and the resistors, some of the jumpers, and 3 buttons. And those should all just be in your kit. So first, a quick overview of what a switch is. So you may have done some like online simulations using buttons and such, but basically switch is just a device that you can use to open or close a circuit. And if you have a closed circuit, you'll be able to have a current to flow through it, and that allows, if you have like LEDs in your circuit, then it can light up. But if a circuit has a gap, like an open circuit, then that will prevent a current from flowing through it. And here, the button, as you see on the right, it's a type of switch that you can close the circuit with. So when you press it down and opens it when it, and we'll be using this in our project. So quick review. We kind of went over this last week, and also the previous week, but breadboards, you'll always need these for your projects. And as usual, we have the blue and red lines. So the blue represents the negative and red is the positive. And you'll see like the little plus sign or minus sign near the ends. And breadboards they have typically just those like 5 columns there here vertically. And when you're assembling like your wires and LEDs, it's important that you line it up because typically you want to have them in the same row, and whether you place a wire near the negative side or positive side also matters. So definitely keep that in mind when you're assembling. And yeah, here's a tip that you want to typically practice. And for your ground pin, you want to have it connected to the blue or the negative rail, and power input connected to the positive side. And we'll go over that more once we start. Just to remember. And LEDs, just those kind of mini bulbs here. And we practiced this last week when we did the LED project. And we'll be using this again. And resistors basically just slow the electric current and control the speed of the current flow. And definitely we'll always need resistors whenever we have like LEDs or some extra wires we see. And for our project, here is our digital input schematic, and I believe, yeah, we want to first try creating this circuit here. So this is where we'll start assembling. And
yes, I think Stefan is planning to lead this section.
yeah, so Stefan will show y'all this assembly here.
All right, so let me first get these buttons out of their bag. Okay, so decided to join on my phone so I can actually show you guys what I'm doing. That's the wrong way. Can you pin my screen here?
Yep. So if you hover over his screen, you should have for your options, the one on the left should say pin to screen. So you should pin his camera with the video of the breadboard on it, so you can watch what he's doing.
Out, forgot to do that. I need to first take a few things out because I forgot to do that earlier. Keep the white LED in there. Okay, so just powering the LED, we're gonna hook it up. You can connect it. You can connect these to any. You can connect your jumper wires here to any of the pins on the Arduino. Just make sure you remember which one's connected to which. Just for the example of this, I'm going to connect the one powering the LED to pin 5. See here, pin 5. Then first button, get our little button here. It's absolutely tiny. It looks bigger on the screen. So we're going to actually put the button going over the center divider, remember, because the center divider, because current won't flow over the center divider here. Going to do the same with a second button. These guys can be a bit tricky to put in. Just letting you guys know. Sometimes their legs like to bend, sometimes they just refuse to go in. That was easier than I anticipated. Okay. Next, you need a few more jumper wires. Connect one side here. I'm going to use a, oh crap, get in there. A white one, fit right here. And the blue one here. Connect one side of them into ground. Assuming this guy wants to go in. That's just a bad one. Just a bad connection. There we go. And take, oh crap, drop that one on the floor. and take 2 more wires, connect those to the other side here of the button, to the other here of the button. And then connect these to, again, whichever ports you choose, whichever pins on the Arduino you choose. For the purpose of this one, I'm going to connect this to pin, and first button to pin 8, and another one to pin 9. And that is about how you should set up your circuit. And I just remembered I forgot one very important thing, and that's to link my 2 grounds together.
So what he's building is exactly the same as you will see on the schematic, except it's on an actual board. So you can follow along with that, and you can also follow along with the diagram.
Right. Okay, anybody, all right. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask. Claire, do you mean resistors? Yeah, you can you can use the same resistors as last time for the LEDs. All right, any other questions, like with setup? And also, one more thing to remember: don't change your circuit while it's plugged in. While it's plugged into, say, your computer. You do not want to cause a short circuit while it's plugged in. I know a couple of people. In my lab, my lab in one of my classes who did that and short circuited their launch pad. Well, one person short circuited it once because he connected it to 2 different power sources, and that fried the launch pad. Yep. All right, everyone done here? All right, so Sarah, would you like to move on? Oh, never mind then. Anything anybody needs help with, now's the time to ask.
We can give a couple minutes just for them to actually build their circuit and set it up. Stefan, if you want, you can rest your phone down, maybe just like tilting towards it. Well, that works too. So we can give until say 4:25 to work on your circuit. If you are ahead, you can take a look at the slides and look ahead for the coding part of this project.
Oh yeah, hopefully you guys have gotten the circuit done, but if not, we have the slides link, so you guys can look back at that. And you're setting up Arduino. I think some of us had some issues with connecting it to the Arduino last time, but hopefully it works now. Yeah, get Arduino open either on the online editor or your desktop app. All right, got mine's open, and like if you haven't set it up yet, then these are kind of just some guidelines as to how to connect it to your board. And what you want to do is just create a new file, and you can name it really anything. You can just name it digital input. And if your circuit's done, you can connect the USB cord to the computer, but make sure if you connect it, you're not gonna like edit your circuit, because you don't want it to be plugged in while you're making changes to your circuit. And these are the instructions for the online editor. So hopefully this time you won't have any sort of like connection issues to the Arduino, but try it out and let us know if you encounter any problems with it. And yeah, you want to create a new sketch if you're on the online editor and just name it digital input. And once you connect your USB to your computer, you should be able to see the Arduino Uno come up. But if it's not recognized, let us know in the chat. But if you don't have any issues, then you're good to go. And
All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, hold on. There's a bit of technical issue. It seems like we're having some technical issues with Google's boards. I'll cover them after I go over this. So, so at the beginning, before void setup, we have to set up our pins. The first one is the LED pin that we initially set up. In this example, I connected to pin 5. And then we have to set up our 2 buttons, which are button A pin, button B pin. Connected those to pins 9 and 8. Now you can name these whatever you want, just make sure that it's a name you can remember. So then we get to void setup. Void setup is a code that's run once. What this does here is set our LED pin, which once again is pin 5. That's the pin mode LED pin output. That sets the pin, that sets pin 5 to be an output. And then for the pin mode button A pin and button B pins, those set the two and that sets the 2 button pins to inputs. So what this does is the LED pin, in my instance, in my case, pin 5, that will function, that will output a voltage. and the button pins will read. Well, the button pins will read a signal. And then we go on to our loop. So basically, if our button and B pin is that pressed? No, it's not pressed. So if the LED is turned, if the button is pressed, that will turn if our first button is pressed, that would be button A, which would be our left button. Pressing that turns the LED on in this instance, and then pressing the second button or right button will turn the LED off. Should be a relatively simple code to write. I will do it just to make sure that it doesn't, and just that it works as well. Turn it up. Very well. All right. Oh. Okay. All right. If you have the code set up like I do, just ignore this other mess of wires, and just ignore the little mess of wires here. So if you have the code set up properly, what happens if you press the left button here, that turns the light on. That is a bit brighter than I anticipated. Then press the right button, turns it off. On, off. what questions do we have here? All right, let's see, questions we have here. All right. So, some issues it looks like we're having, like ports not being recognized. Boards, yeah. For this one, we want to set the board to Arduino Uno because this is actually an Arduino. It's just sold by Elugu, or however you pronounce that. And yes, I do recommend just typing this code. Just make things simpler. Anybody have any issues with the code or the set or the hardware? Anybody have any issues that they'd like to? If you have any questions, now's the time to ask.
On the other hand, does anyone have theirs working and like to show it? Ooh. Stefan, would you like to share your screen and show the actual, like how you run the code on the Arduino IDE?
The web-based one or the one you download?
Download.
Okay, let's see. Where do I? All right, Sarah, I'm gonna need you to take down your screen. Hold on, let me. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna steal control over here. All right, so here we have the code. You can name it whatever. Here we have our code file. You can name it whatever you want. So first, I'm gonna make sure the tools here. Making sure that that's sharing. Yeah, that's sharing. Oh, and you can see that, right?
Yep, you're good.
See that? Okay. So first, we have to make sure that our board is set to Arduino Uno because this is an Arduino Uno based board. Set your serial port to, this one has it as COM5. In this case, it'll be whatever port it decides to go to. Whatever port it decides to be. So once you have the code written out like this, first, what I recommend doing is verifying it to make sure there's no problems or compiling errors in the code. Then what you want to do is press upload. And first things first, your board has to be connected to your PC through the USB cable. All right. That. Oh, you don't have. All right. Okay. Hold on. Are you using the web version or are you using the version you have to download? That is interesting. Okay. Interesting. You might have, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think we can go into that breakout room and
All right. Any other questions or anybody want to show their circuit working? Okay. Bye, Sarah. All right. Do you think we're good to move on yet or no? Okay. Let me kill my presentation. All right. So we're good to move on to the button passcode next. Sister? Oh, never mind. All right. So what issues do I have going on with this circuit here? All right, Ronette, what? All right, do you have any issues, or is it just taking a little while? Okay. LED pin. So LED pin is just the name you give to the pin that will power the LED light. You can name it whatever you want. Just make sure you remember what it. Just make sure you remember what does what. Does what. So in my example, the LED pin is pin 5. So you would set your set the, in this case, variable LED pin to 5, and then I'll set that in pin mode, turn that to the output. So, all right. So, if you're still in this part, feel free to keep working on that. But I think we're going to introduce the next part of the project now, and that's the button passcode. So, Sarah, if you'd like to scroll the slides along a bit. All right. So now let's build this. All right. So now let's build our circuit. So here's the circuit. We're just going to add a couple things to it. First things first, I'm going to unplug my Arduino board. It's a bit tricky to do with one hand. Out you go. And unplug that for safety reasons and so I don't accidentally blow the LED. You don't actually blow the Arduino. Next, we're going to put the lights. All right, so first we're going to need one more button and one more LED and a few more jumper wires. All right, so grab this little button. There we go. This button here. Just gonna do that. It goes in there, hopefully. All right, another LED. I'm actually going to replace the LED, one of my LEDs here. I suggest getting a red and a green LED. I'm going to take out my white LED. The green one in here, in theory, yeah, there you go. There you go. Put my red one down here. Breadboard. And just to make sure you really don't blow the LED, put a resistor in here. Resistors tend to like to not want to go in sometimes, so you may have to give it a bit of force. And you got, it's also hard doing this with one hand holding the camera. There we go. Come on, sorry about that. Yeah. There you go. And in there, there we go. We're gonna need a few more jumper wires. Let me grab a few of those. Here's one. So first, I'm gonna connect my next button here. I'm gonna connect that to pin 6. I'm gonna connect the red LED to pin 6. You can connect it to whichever pin that's not already occupied. Just connect this here to the button here. Connect the one end to ground. My ground mode here. And the second, the input, the button for the button, I'm gonna connect that to pin 10. You can connect it to whichever one you want, really. Just remember which one you've connected to. Okay. Anybody confused at all how to set this up? Okay. All right, shall we move on? Okay. Sarah, shall we move on? Shall we move on?
Oh, what was?
We can probably give a little more time for people to work on this.
Okay. Okay.
Bring up the schematic. Just leave it on screen.
All right. All right.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask in chat or speak. If you do have your circuit bill, if you want to show it up to your camera, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, we'll probably go over the code for the passcode one during office hours next week. But for the rest of class today, which we only have 5 minutes left, we'll probably focus on getting this done.
Yeah, just getting this whole thing set up. Okay, Ronet. My guess is that's something to do with the actual code. So, what pins did you connect your buttons to? Huh? Wait, what? Is there an Arduino Mega in here? Hmm. Arduino. Eight and 9. Okay, and on your code, let me